Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for KPRC's Back to School panel with experts from HISD. I'm Zach Lashway. Joining me this afternoon for this discussion, Jeremy Grant Skinner, HISD's Chief Talent Officer. Thank you so much. HISD Police Chief Pedro Lopez, Glenda Calloway, the district's Executive Director of Counseling and Compliance, and Dr. Candice Castillo, Executive Officer of Student Support Services. Thank you all for being here. We have a lot to talk about this afternoon as we are just days away from the start of the school year. Classes start Monday,
August 22nd.
August 22nd. No reminders needed for that. I want to start this conversation by bringing us all back to our first day. Pick a year. It doesn't matter. Might be long ago. But bring us back there. Were you nervous? Were you excited? A little bit of both? What kind of emotions were you feeling?
I think for me it was a little bit of both. You're always excited because usually you are going to either see your friends again or you're looking forward to maybe a teacher that you want to see. But also a little bit nervous because you're kind of like having to change your routine right from the last couple of months and adjust to something slightly new. So it's
Absolutely.
a little bit of both.
Glenda?
Mine would be having to start a new school when I moved to 7th grade and having a wonderful Texas history teacher who changed my life and is probably the reason I've spent 36 years in education.
In education, yeah. Great teachers make the world of a difference. I know it's
They
cliche, but it certainly is true.
Absolutely.
Chief?
My fondest memory was starting school with new clothes every week. Every day of the week,
Right.
for the first week at least. And then
School clothes shopping, right?
Exactly. So that was a big thing for us, and I really enjoyed it. And plus also like re-meeting my new friends and just getting back to the routine of going back to school.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy?
I remember high school, it felt like exciting to be going to a new school and see some new friends, some old friends, but also it felt like the beginning of this moment of preparing for eventual graduation.
Yeah. I grew up in upstate New York, the 5th largest school district in New York State, but that's because it was so rural. It was up in the Canadian and Vermont borders in that little corner up there. But I remember being a fall athlete playing soccer. We would always return to school several weeks before school started, so it was always exciting and great to see everybody, but also a little nervous as well. So it was good to be back, though. But we want to get right to our questions. We have a lot to talk about today. Within this dialogue, we're going to field some questions from KPRC2 insiders. And so we've mixed those questions along with some questions we've come up with ourselves among producers and journalists here at KPRC. So we're going to start with security, a big topic for so many people. I know, Chief Lopez, you along with other school officials and community members announced just this morning a security partnership on campuses ahead of next week's start date. This comes after HISD trustees voted to add more than $2 million for extra equipment for HISD police. So I know you've had a very busy day.
Yes.
Tell us about your morning.
This morning we had a good press conference with our partnership with HPD and the Ministers Against Crime. This is a program that it's not just because Uvalde happened. This is a program that's been on with HISD and HPD for years. I've been with HPD for 29 years since I was a rookie. I remember every school year we spend time and working with the school districts to make sure our students have a safe start to the school year and a safe start to the summer. So this is nothing different. This is something we do every year, and it's just our commitment to our students and our staff members that we're committed to making sure that the first week of school is going to be safe. So the local ministers are working with us to patrol the schools, walk the schools, talk to the students, just become mentors. HPD is going to help us patrol the areas outside the schools and to supplement our staff. So it's a great partnership. It's a great program. It's something we do every year.
That's really awesome to hear. The $2 million announced just within the past 2 weeks, will that help with your endeavors in keeping students and staff and teachers safe?
That's part of the process. School safety, we look at it in physical security and psychological security. So that's why we have great partners like Dr. Castillo and Ms. Calloway. And this is going to help us with our physical security response in case of an active shooter event. It wasn't a request to prepare us for active shooter events because we were prepared. We just needed equipment. So in case we, encounter an obstacle like a door that we can't breach, now we have those tools and the training in order to allow us to do that.
In place to help out. This leads me to our first viewer question, and that is from Nicole. She asks, will all schools have security? This also piggybacks off a question from Christian, who asks, will officers get more training in dealing with an active shooter situation? You've kind of mentioned that. Let's elaborate on that a little more.
Okay, the first part, will all schools have security? Yes, all schools have security. High schools and middle schools have officers assigned to their campuses. We patrol our feeder patterns, which are the elementary schools, with our patrol officers. We have 5 patrol districts, so each elementary school gets a visit by a patrol officer every day or when they call for service. So we do cover all our schools with
and this
with
is
our
with district police.
This is with district police. When we have incidents that we're aware of, like of a gang threat or some type of terroristic threat, then we call in for support from HPD, the Harris County Constable's Office, like mostly Precinct 6 and Precinct 5 and Precinct 2. They're the ones that patrol our areas, and we ask for assistance from them. So, and they always do that. And the second question was?
The second question piggybacked off of Nicole's question. It's from a viewer by the name of Christian, who asks, will officers get more training in dealing with active shooter situations?
Yes. Every year, HISD officers go to active shooter training. We do 8 hours of training. But now, when we receive the equipment, we're going to go through more scenario-based hands-on training, which will teach us how to use the shields and use the breaching tools in order to gain entry into those rooms to do that. We plan to start doing that in January once the equipment arrives. So it's going to take a few weeks to get the equipment in because of supply chain issues, but the equipment is en route and we have plans to start the training in January.
Being the top dog of district police, I want to ask you, if you have or had children or grandchildren within HISD schools, would you feel safe sending your child there?
Yes, I do, because with all the partnerships we have and with our great administrators that, it's not only a law enforcement response, it's a district-wide response. And with the threat assessment teams that we have in place, and they're great at detecting and mitigating incidents before it happens. And that's the key to preventing active shooter events is mitigation. And our threat assessment teams, which is mandated by the state, do a good job in doing that. We had a threat before school ended, and we properly mitigated before it became an actual event. And it was a very serious threat. But due to our partnership with our students, because the student was reported the incident to the campus administrators initiated that protocol that we follow for threats, and we resolved that incident without anyone getting hurt and student getting help. Because, it's not just a law enforcement response. We want to make sure the student gets the resources in order for them to overcome whatever issue they're facing in their personal life.
And we all within the community play an active role in vetting those threats.
Correct.
Identifying those threats. You see something, say something. We're going to talk a little bit about that later, but that's something that you have in place.
Yes.
Say something, see something. Okay, our next question. I am curious. I'm working on a story right now. I'm curious to know your thoughts on Texas Commission on Law Enforcement's School Marshal Program. This might be more in your realm than anybody else's. The program authorizes certain school employees to carry a firearm on campus. The sole purpose of the school marshal is to prevent the act of murder or serious bodily injury on campus. This is according to TCOL. A school marshal may only act as defined by the written regulations adopted by the school board or governing body. Again, I'm curious to know your thoughts on the program and if this program would fit HISD.
The school marshal program is a good program, but it has to apply to the situation that you're in. In HISD, when you're going to have a rapid response, not only from HISD PD, but also from other police agencies. The school marshal program is better fit for rural areas where there's going to be a 20, 30-minute delay in response. If an incident happens on any HISD property, within 5 to 10 minutes, you're going to have a response to the officers. And then the school marshal program is a great program, but it only provides 16 hours of training to the person carrying the gun.
80 hours.
80 hours, excuse me. 80 hours of training. But they also need to train with the police officer. That component is not part of the school marshal program. So in order for that to work, it has to be a coordinated response between the school marshals, whoever they designate, and the police officer. And that's what's lacking. And that's why I don't support it here in HISD.
Good to know. Thank you. I know that's, again, on the top of minds of many, especially as we head back to school. Our next question from Stacy, a viewer. The current salary of support staff positions range anywhere from $20,000 to $29,000. She asks, will HISD be doing anything this year to increase the salaries of its lowest paid employees that might be struggling? I'm not sure who is best fit to answer that question. They're saying you.
Sure. So one of our priorities that we named in our strategic plan earlier this year was increasing compensation across the board for employees in the district. We actually already, for the last couple of years, have been one of the leading districts in the region when we look at our minimum wage. So we've had a $14 minimum wage, $4 more than it was a couple of years before. And we're going to continue with that region leading minimum wage. I think that's where the 29,000 number comes from, is anyone who's earning our minimum wage has been earning $29,000 if they are a full-time, full-year employee. One of the priorities we made when we upgraded our compensation this year was to raise the salaries for a lot of our support staff who were all at that same level. So we had like 8 different categories of employees who, because of past inaction, had all been making that minimum wage. And we really spread out our salary scale. Our support staff employee association has been asking us to do that for years. And then, so we are significantly increasing the wage rates for our support staff. On top of that, we have been giving stipends to our support staff. So our transportation support staff received stipends throughout the last year, and other support staff just received $1,000 in June. They'll receive another $1,000 in December, which effectively increases their hourly wage by $1 to $2, even beyond this region-leading minimum wage. So we've been committed to raising wages for everyone, including our support staff, who serve in all sorts of positions that are really important across the district.
What is there a staffing shortage days ahead of starting class on Monday?
So I will say we're in a space where nationally in education there have been a lot of challenges brought on by our experience during the pandemic for the last couple of years. And one of those challenges that you see playing out nationally is about staffing. We are on the upswing. Earlier this year, we released our strategic plan that has received a lot of positive attention. We really have a vision for where we're going. Just this week, we received state accountability results. We were just celebrating one of our high schools, Wheatley High School, today. 94% of our schools were rated A, B, or C. And there's a staffing
B grade.
With an overall B+ grade. We see this upswing with staffing too. This summer, we actually saw fewer teachers leave the district than in any year of the last 5 years, if we exclude 2020, which was an anomaly all across the country. So with that strategic plan, with the practices that we're putting in place, including increased compensation, we saw fewer teachers leave. As a result of that, 95% of our teacher positions are filled in advance of Monday. And so we're excited and prepared for the start of the year.
95% filled?
Yes.
What does that leave open? Approximately how many positions?
Sure, we have about 11,000 teacher positions in the district, so 5% is a few hundred positions across our nearly 300 schools, and we've put in place a few strategies to make sure that regardless of whether you're in that 95% or not, when a student comes to school on Monday, they have a teacher there for them. So we are relying on associate teachers or substitutes. We have a big pool of our substitutes who actually are certified teachers, and we provided an incentive for them to provide support at the beginning of the year. And our schools also have other certified staff in the building who are going to be assigned to classrooms where that's necessary to start off the year. These are people like teacher specialists and coaches and coordinators, people who are in the building already, have close ties to the students and the community, and will just adjust their duties at the start of the year to make sure our classrooms are covered.
Are you having to move anyone from the central office into classrooms?
Part of our approach this year was we did invite central office staff to receive an incentive and volunteer to do that, and we've had some staff who decided to do that. Our priority was really focusing on those folks who are already there working with students every day in the building to provide coverage at the beginning of the year. And 95% is that means a couple hundred more classrooms are filled this year than they were last year. There are districts around the country who are much smaller than us, saying they have 1,000 vacancies at the start of the year. So we have room to grow here, and our strategic plan talks about a lot of ways that we're trying to retain and recruit more teachers, but we're in a pretty good place at the start of this year.
When you talk about 11,000 openings among teachers, any other openings among other staff members?
Sure, and sorry, 11,000 total teacher positions. So we have a few hundred that are open. Okay. Among other staff members, it is a challenging time for any organization to fill positions, and teachers have been certainly the place where, again, nationally, there's the biggest challenge that we have focused our efforts.
If you had to give the district a grade based upon retainment and attracting qualified staff, what would you give yourself for a grade?
I would say it aligns very close to the grade the district just got. I would say a B+, and this is because we have had over years challenges as a large urban district retaining teachers, and we also are in a state and in a country where our traditional sources are not producing enough new educators. We're not attracting new people as a country into the field. So our starting point is a place of challenge, and yet to open with 95% of our teacher positions filled this year is well beyond what many districts are able to do. So we have the right things in place to open the year successfully and to grow moving forward.
I want to get to our next viewer question. That's from Chantel. She explains she's a concerned parent of a 13-year-old who does not have bus transportation to and from school. The family lives in the neighborhood where the school Autumn Ridge was recently built. Chantel is asking for help finding a more sufficient accommodation for children instead of having them walk to and from school.
Sure. I can talk more generally about this and say that bus drivers are certainly one of the places across the country where there are challenges. And I'll say in HISD, I talked to our chief operating officer today about how we're looking for transportation opening the year. And while we are seeking to hire more bus drivers every day, so if there are more bus drivers, we have positions to put them into. At the same time, our number of bus drivers is sufficient to allow us to serve all routes. I don't know the details in this case of a route that reaches this newly built development, but we have the people in place to make sure on Monday everyone who should be getting on the bus has someone coming to pick them up.
Bus routes will not be impacted.
That's correct.
That's good to know. Gloria is asking about COVID-19 protocols. What are the latest, and is anything currently in place for COVID-19?
Yes, we have our protocols that have been in place since the spring that were updated then, which basically makes our mask optional for those students and individuals that need that extra layer of protection. We are focusing our mitigation strategies this year on cleaning, disinfecting, and sanitizing all of our facilities like we have been doing so since the beginning of the pandemic with hospital-grade products. We also are encouraging families to talk to their children about hygiene etiquette and ensuring that while they are returning to school, we know that they're going to be super excited to see their friends, and that always leads to eating something where you want to eat some of this because of the communicable disease, not just COVID specifically, but what we're seeing also with monkeypox and just other infectious diseases. We want our families to talk to their children about the importance of not sharing food or drinks, washing hands. Our campuses are equipped with hand sanitizer stations, so they're going to have access to that, and just really honing in on that more hygiene etiquette that our children should be more aware of as they go back to school and are with different settings. But everything that we have had since the spring as far as COVID-specific protocols are still in place. We are encouraging also our families, making them aware that if a child is exhibiting any kind of symptoms of any communicable disease, they must stay home. The TEA has also provided that on their guidelines. We want to make sure that we are doing our best to keep everyone safe, so we want to remind them to stay home. And for our families that have athletes, in our campuses, also having those conversations of not sharing shirts or anything. Right now it's just a time where we all need to be a little bit more cautious on sharing things that touches body parts that are sweating or having secretions, so that we are not spreading anything in particular. But in addition, our families do have options to get vaccinated if that's something that they would like to do. Vaccines for COVID are available for anyone 6 months and older, and the district is doing COVID testing for our students, our staff, and their families that live in the same household this Friday and Saturday and next Saturday. So they're going to have options to do that, ensuring that they are good to go to walk our campuses on Monday.
Where will that be happening?
So we have several. We have 3 sites each day. The ones on Friday are going to be at Sam Houston High School, Scarborough High School, and Fur High School. And then the ones on Saturday are going to be at Lamar High School and also Westbury High School as well.
And we, of course, will get all that information,
Yes.
and we will be sure to put that on our website, clicktohouston.com. Those are COVID-19 testing sites?
They're going to be drive-through. We're going to have a team in partnership with the Houston Health Department who's going to be conducting drive-through COVID testing, and they will be PCR testing, so they will get the results in about 24 hours from when they get tested. There was a communication that went out yesterday that has a link to register. Because it is limited, we do want to encourage families to register, and it could be the student and the parents, the grandparents if they live with them, and they register, go to the site that they select, and they get tested in a few minutes, and they will have the results via email.
So make an appointment. Are walk-ups or drive-thrus accepted?
No, we really want to ensure that we are prepared to receive. We don't want to turn anyone away, but we want to make sure that we have what is needed to test the amount of people that will show up. So registration is definitely needed in order to participate.
Is the district efforting any vaccination type efforts?
We have had a lot of back to school events, and we have had those partnerships where the Houston Health Department comes and provide vaccine clinics, and we have been doing that through the summer as well. So they do have that option. And we are also planning on having our on-campus COVID testing program. We had it last year in about 95% of our campuses, where families opting to have their child be tested bi-weekly or every week, depending on the cadence of the campus, and that way, as they're going through the school year, they can also have that peace of mind that, their child is in a safe, environment, or if there's something that needs to be taken care of, they have that immediate opportunity to do so. So the program will be starting in September, and our families are going to be receiving more information on how to provide consent for their child to participate.
We're 2.5 years into this pandemic. I'm losing track, but I think that's pretty accurate. Yes. 2.5 years. Dr. Castillo, are you hearing any concerns from parents, students today about COVID-19?
I think right now everybody is in that kind of like evolving moment of this pandemic, and with the appearance of monkeypox, it's really turning more into concerns about communicable disease in general. And, we have some others, like meningitis is always also a concern that parents have. So I think what is important is to remind everyone to be aware of symptoms, not minimize symptoms. Sometimes, especially with our kids, if they're complaining about, muscle aches or body aches, we as parents tend to think it's because they have been playing rough or something like that, but we really want to encourage our families to be monitoring for any kind of symptoms, and if they notice something out of the ordinary, as a precaution, just go and contact their family doctor to ensure that they're ruling out any, serious potential disease. But in general, I think the public is very aware as a community where we're moving to, and the tools that we have now that we didn't have 2 years and a half ago, and just makes the situation more manageable for everyone. And with everything, again, vaccine options that we have, treatment options that we have, and what we have learned in the last 2.5 years, it's really an opportunity for every individual to make the decisions based on lifestyle and their family dynamics.
If we're not talking about COVID-19 today, we're talking about monkeypox. Does the district have a plan to minimize the spread of monkeypox?
The good thing is the protocols that we utilize for COVID really applies to any communicable disease on keeping things, again, that hygiene, disinfecting, and sanitation is going to be key. Making sure that people are doing their part on, again, practicing good hygiene protocols personally and not sharing things that we shouldn't be sharing, so that way we minimize. But we are in good shape to prevent as much as possible from a cleaning aspect and just keeping things the way that they should based on the protocols that we have. We had a high focus last year as well in the last 2 years with how we disinfect our buildings and giving our students and visitors and our staff access to hand sanitizer stations, being able to wash their hands, emphasizing those protocols. So I think we should be ready. And also, we have a tremendous partnership with the Houston Health Department. So in the event that something were to happen, they'll be ready to support us in our response as well.
There's a deficit of mental health professionals across the board. This is across the country in all industries. Is HISD dealing with a shortage? If so, what is it doing to address it?
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to say is that for the first time in many decades, under Superintendent House's strategic plan, we will have either a school counselor or a social worker at every campus. And that's a big step for our district to ensure that we have a person on the campus that students or parents can reach out to if there are mental health concerns or if there are just any concerns with behaviors or those types of things. We know that when students transition back to school after the summer, there can be some adjustment issues. And so the school counselor or the social worker will be able to provide support for those students and the family. But what we are doing is we are working with universities around our area to have programs that our current staff members can attend to earn their certifications or credentials and licensing for social work. There are programs around here, and we've expanded. I think one of the things that for social workers, we weren't necessarily really using that position in our district. So as we expand that we have some untapped resources with many of the colleges around here who offer those programs. So we're excited to really work on expansion of that, but really excited that every campus is slated to have a school counselor or social worker this year.
That's very impressive. When we talk about health, everybody has health, right? Everybody has mental health as well. I think so often, though, we're so quick to judge or, talk about this stigma attached to mental health, when at the end of the day, everyone has mental health. Everyone has to make sure that mental health is in tip-top shape. And asking for help is not a weakness. Alerting people asking for help and alerting people of a problem is not something that we should be ashamed of or afraid to talk about. If people need to talk to someone, where should they start? What are those first steps?
Well, I think there's a couple of places, but depending on how people feel about that. Obviously, the first place we would love for them to reach out to is their school counselor or social worker. Additionally, we have wraparound specialists. They are not counselors per se, but they have connections to resources that families can access. But oftentimes, and you brought it up earlier about the see something, say something. Oftentimes, people see their friends who are in distress, but they don't necessarily want to tell. And so we train all students in 6th grade through 12th grade for free through the Sandy Hook Promise on the See Something, Say Something. And that is, they can do it via an app, there's a website, and a phone number that they can call. And we have posters in our schools put up about this in our secondary campuses, because oftentimes what we will get is, I may see that my friend has posted something on social media that I feel says that they're in danger. of hurting themselves, hurting something else, we want them to report that. And they can do that anonymously through the app. And what happens is that then gets routed to the particular, to Sandy Hook, and I believe they're actually located in Florida. Chief Lopez is nodding his head yes. And then what they do is they triage those. They take those calls and they really look at them and they say, how severe is this? And if it's imminent, if someone's in imminent danger, they're going to contact our police department. Our police department will dispatch, and this happens 24 hours a day. And that's what's also wonderful about it. It's a 24-hour-a-day program. If it's something that it's a mental health thing and that they're at school, then they're going to contact our social and emotional learning department as well as the campus that the student is attending, and they're going to go out and immediately deal with whatever that situation is. And sometimes it's not as severe as somebody thinks it is, and sometimes it is. The other thing about that app is it's not just about mental health. If students see somebody post something about threatening someone, or threatening a campus, showing weapons that they think are and they have a plan for something, we really want parents, students, they can use the app if they don't feel like contacting the campus or the district directly, and they're going to route that to us immediately. That will be a high-level incident, and so it really is a great resource for parents and students and community members. You don't have to be part of HISD. Anyone can contact the district through that particular app and give us information that we can use.
That sounds like a really great resource, and it just shows how far we've come as a society to work together in hopes of keeping everyone safe, whether that be students, teachers, or community members. On this topic, let's talk about bullying and the impact bullying has on students' mental health. What is HISD doing to prevent bullying?
So we have a couple of things that we've really worked with. We have a new program that we adopted 2 years ago. So the first year was during the COVID situation. So that was a light launch of that. We didn't have
soft launch.
We didn't have as many students in our campuses at that particular time, but it's called Rethink Ed. And it really is a program that tries to help students learn to deal with their emotions, because that's really where bullying comes from, is I don't know how to tell people how I feel, so I'm aggressive and I'm going to act out on that, and I'm going to take my anger about things and I'm going to put that on someone else. And so this is a program that what we really want to do is we want to help students know what to do with those feelings. And through that, we have this program, and teachers work with students on it, as do counselors and social workers. And so it's an ongoing process. We need to start when students are young, pre-K, kindergarten. Now this program goes from pre-K all the way through 12th grade. So it is used at the different campuses. So that's one thing. The other thing is we really want people to be able to respond. We want people to be able to report. If you're a parent and you think your child's being bullied, or you're a parent and you think your child is the bully, please contact the counselor or the social worker at your campus, because we want to head that off from both ends, from the student who's being bullied. We have a no tolerance to that, but we also want to help the student who is doing the bullying to stop that behavior, because obviously that's the end game, is to have everybody be safe and feel comfortable and not have students be afraid. And so we ask parents that, if your child is coming home and doesn't really want to go to school, has changed their behaviors, comes home and they have bruises or stuff that weren't there, and they won't tell you how it happened. Now we know kids get bruised. The playground, I was an elementary school teacher, things happen there. But if they're not really communicating with you and you see differences in their behavior, contact the campus and let them look into it and have some conversations and see what's happening. We want to support all of our students.
And it's just starting that conversation. Having a dialogue can make the world of a difference, especially when it comes to that.
If I could add something to that,
absolutely.
The police department, we understand bullying is an issue and it causes a lot of problems. So the police department HISD has reintroduced their program, and one of the modules that we teach, police officers teach, is how to deal with bullying issues and how not to be a bully. So education is very key in preventing bullying. And so we started off at elementary schools, and we expanded the DARE program to over 20 elementary schools in order to teach our kids on what to do if they're being bullied and prevent those cases.
And I think, too, having a presence, whether that be from a police officer or another adult, for a child, a student of all ages, to look up to and have that role model and maybe have that conversation also can have a big impact on whether someone is bullying or being bullied. Having those people around. With that, there's a new incentive program in place for students at several HISD schools, It's called the RAC Room. Is this correct? The Random Acts of Kindness. What is it? Explain it to me. How does this work?
It's basically, think about if you have a store in your campus. Some of our campus, I know, Revere Middle School is one of the ones that has it. And then students get rewarded for things that they do that are, kind acts. And they get, I don't want to say fake money, but they get some sort of
points.
Yes, that they can and then exchange for some of the items that are in this resource room. So they get to see the reward of their action based on that. So it's a new program. Like
New this year.
Yes, we just started launching it. I know they have been working with a few schools that have them. So the best way that parents can find out more is contact their school and see if their school is participating on one of those.
I'm hoping to hear about some millionaires this coming school year.
I'm sure we will have many. I am sure we will have many.
Oh, that's so awesome. What kind of after-school programs are available for families to participate in, to be part of? And is it too late for families or students to enroll in any of those programs?
Now, we have several, and they're going to vary by school and also by school level. So elementary, middle, and high school will have different options. Again, the best way will be to contact their school. It shouldn't be late for most of them because a lot of times that first week of school, they're still trying to, it's family situation change anytime. So they're trying to see if people that might have been using the program last year will still be there. So there should be a couple of spots. But contacting the school and figuring out some schools have before and after school options, so that will be the best guidance from the campus themselves to figure it out. But we have at least over 37, I counted, that were still being implemented this year. So
37 different programs,
yes,
extracurricular activities.
Correct.
Wow, that's really amazing.
That is aside from other things that are after-school programming specific. So some of our schools might have like an athletic program. It's not necessarily after school. So when we talk after school, we're looking at like that aftercare that is usually for our elementary and middle schools. But our families also have options to sports in middle school and high school. We have some campuses that offer kind of like mentoring opportunities, craft, art. So they will have to check with their campus to see what their specific campus has available.
I know, being from the 5th largest school district in New York State, being rural mostly, we had some extracurricular activities and some after-school sports. We did not have a lot. Children, being in a rural area, they did not have the resources available to them like most city districts do. For families worried about their child not being able to participate in these extracurricular activities or sports, or even having access to something as simple as school lunch, is there a program or programs in place to help parents offset that burden?
Yeah, so we have a couple of options. And earlier you mentioned something about, sometimes we shy away from asking for help. There's a stigma sometimes of asking for help that might seem negative, but we want to ensure that our families feel supported. And so one way that they can seek that help, and it could be in many different categories, from basic needs like food to anything like health and well-being that is tied to our mental health efforts, is through our wraparound program. We have something that is called the Student Assistant Form, or SAF, which is an online form, and it can be done on the phone, on the computer. They can also contact the school and ask for assistance filling this out, and they can let us know what they need. If it's assistance with finding extracurricular options, if it's assistance, maybe they need transportation support, anything that they need, we want to ensure that we are doing our best effort to find a partner that can provide that resource or service. But that form will be our best indicator of trying to not just figure out the need, but also be able to properly follow up with the student and the family. Anyone from the student, a teacher, a community member, anyone that notices or knows of a family or a student in need can fill out this form, and then either depending on the need, It could be our wraparound specialist, it could be our social worker if it's something mental health related, or our counselors that will do the initial follow-up, try to gather more information and see how we can support them. But we want them to reach out and let us know. A lot of times a campus might not have something, but if we are hearing from families that that's the need, then we can seek those partnerships and ensure that we can bring back some feasible options for them.
Of course. And this is for families in K through 12.
Correct. The student assistance form, any family, any student in our Houston ISD campuses can request that type of assistance. And again, either the wraparound specialist, a social worker, or a counselor will be able to follow up with them, try to figure out what it is. If it's an existing resource or service that we have, then that's an easy connection to make. But if it's something that we have to seek, then we'll work with them and keep them up to date on what we're doing to meet that need.
If a student or family is currently taking advantage of those services, do they have to reapply? Do
Nope.
they have to? No.
The only thing that they have to do is, of course, because once that form is filled out, and we said like Zach was needing assistance with an after-school program, and then we connected you,
A lot of help.
and then and then you went ahead and participated. If something, let's say like now there's a death in the family, and maybe Zach now needs a little bit of extra, counseling support, then you need to let us know, right? Like the key on this is that constant communication. And engagement from the families to let us know. Sometimes our students can be disengaged or might be missing school, and we don't know that there's a situation going on. This is a great way of letting us know, that there's something they need support with, and that we can be working together to support the student.
Did you want to add to that?
I wanted to add to that because I wanted to share with you all that we're going to have an event. The Back to School Extravaganza is on this Friday the 19th from 10 to 2. It's at the Bethel Empowerment Center, which is located at 12660 Sandpiper, Houston, Texas, 77035. And at this event, parents will be able to get food for parents who need food. The food bank is providing food for that through Bethel. We will have immunizations there. We do ask that parents bring their immunization records for their children, because obviously they want to make sure they're giving the right immunizations to them. But we will also have backpacks, school supplies, some toiletry items, and those type of things for families to help get the cost down for going back to school. We know it's expensive to get a backpack and some of those school supplies, so we encourage everybody to come out. You do not have to pre-register for this particular event. Just show up, and it's going to start at 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. And I'm sure it's going to be highly anticipated, so maybe get there early, right?
Absolutely. We do I've done this for several years, and parents do start lining up early.
Yeah.
And because of COVID, we ask people to stay in their cars unless they're doing the immunization part. There's a separate part.
Pop their trunk type of deal.
Yes, they're going to pop their trunk. We'll have identified how many students that they have, and have those things ready to go for them.
I think I want to ask each of you what you say is our biggest struggle, the district's biggest struggle or hurdle entering the 2022-2023 school year, the biggest challenge. Whoever wants to go first, they can.
I'll go. I think from the district perspective,
I'm also going to ask you what you all think what the district's doing really well too.
Yes.
So I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yes. And I'll start with that. I think we're doing a lot of different things well. I think, our leadership team has truly been working diligently the last year, setting systems in place, processes in place that can allow us to function in our new reality, right? With all the new things that our students are dealing with, our community it's dealing with post-COVID, if we can say post-COVID at some point. So I think it's having that vision of setting, what our students are going to need, what is our staff going to need. I think having that leadership is truly being key. And, having partnerships that allow us to extend our reach, it's also something that has been very powerful, at least from my perspective. One of the things that I would say is just how we engage with families. We want families to be able to communicate more with our schools, to be able to leverage more those resources. A lot of times, again, we are working diligently to bring those services. We have programming that is being offered, and we want our families to take advantage of that, to not feel that they are alone in this journey that they're taking with their kid, that they're sending to our schools. So really leveraging what we have and be okay with asking for help and accepting help. And I think for me, that is the part that we still have work to do, and we're happy to do that work because we know that the need is out there and we want our families to be ready to receive it. So.
And I can say, being in the communications business, that's something we can always improve on too ourselves, and that's communicating with one another. That can sometimes get lost in translation for sure.
But mine would be very similar to Candace's and something that you had already mentioned. Really what we want to do as a district and are still working with is really taking away the stigma associated with mental health, asking for help, seeking that help, and understanding that it's not something that goes away overnight or immediately. It's a process that could be several years. It could be a lifetime of working through things related to mental health. But we really want to take away that stigma. And the other thing sort of that Candace mentioned is we have so many resources in getting that information to the right people, to the stakeholders who need that information the most. Is I think one of the things that we struggle with, how to tell all the parents what is available to them and what the resources are that they have access to.
Chief?
I think what we're doing well in is communication, reaching out to the community and involving them in the daily operations of the district. Ever since Superintendent House arrived, that's been his main goal, and I think we're achieving that. From a law enforcement perspective, from the police department's perspective, we need more assistance in developing intervention programs, but that's a responsibility from outside the department. We could, refer kids to other resources. But when it comes time to placing a kid in juvenile system, we need a little bit more resources to help to try to, mitigate that and erase that off their record. I don't believe a kid that committed a minor assault at, 10, 11, 12 years old, 13 years old, I don't think that should be on their record for their entire life. So we need some outside assistance to try to, help a child recover from that if they actually commit a serious crime while they're in school.
Before we get to you, Jeremy, and before you answer that question, I want to talk to you a little bit more. How many officers do you have within your department?
We're fully staffed, fully authorized at 202. Right now, we're about 195.
195. So a few current openings.
Yes, and we're hiring.
And then you're hiring. Yeah. So often we're talking about police-community relations within the news business. Are those relations being improved upon within district police and community members, its constituents?
I think as a whole, school-based law enforcement, we have to take a hard look at improving our community relations. It's no longer just solving problems and making an arrest. So a lot of police chiefs here and around the area, Aldine, Spring, Klein, Humble, we all have a serious focus on community support and community events. When I arrived, we had one officer that was assigned to our community service unit. I expanded that to 6 because I really sincerely believe that we need to reach out to the community members, especially our students and our parents. That's something that we lack, that connection between the police department and the parent. And it's because various reasons why it's hard to do that, because most of them are at work during the day or they work late hours. So we need to find some ways where we could reach out more and inform them what the police department is doing for their children, inform them what the district is doing for their children. So that's a challenge, and I'm working on it, and I know the other police chiefs in the area is working on it too.
Awesome. Jeremy, I'll let you answer that question. The biggest challenge, the greatest challenge, and the greatest accomplishment.
Sure. I think when I think about the challenge, I recognize we've had 3 consecutive years of interrupted education, or education that's really been significantly affected by the pandemic. So I think the challenge as a district is, how do we ensure that we engage students, engage staff and others in what hopefully will be a more normal school year for the first time in a while. I think we've learned through this experience, things like wraparound specialists, things like expanded tutoring are things maybe we wouldn't have done in the same way, and now we have those things in place that will serve our students. But I think that's the challenge and the opportunity before us. My own child is entering second grade, and this will be hopefully in HISD, and hopefully this is his first year, not with COVID impact on his education. So
he does not even know a normal school year.
He does not know. 3 weeks ago, he said, "Wait, I'm going back to school," and I said, "Oh, you don't yet understand the cycle of how this works." I think the opportunity for us, or what I'm excited about, is the team that is in place. We have a clear vision that, again, I think people are rallying around. And whether it is staff who, despite it all, are staying with us after their jobs got tougher during the pandemic, or the thousands of staff who are joining HISD for the first time or coming back, we have great people in place who are committed to doing the work that our students need.
What is your message to students watching right now, to parents watching right now, especially with security being on the minds of so many?
To the parents, please stay aware of what your children is doing on social media. A lot of the issues that we have to resolve in the district results from, adolescent misbehavior on social media, making threats, making funny comments, being mean to people. And a lot of parents need to be aware that, that device is very powerful, whether it's a laptop or tablet or cell phone. And if you maintain situational awareness on that device, and tell us when you see something threatening or something violent or something disturbing, please reach out and let us know. A lot of parents are kind of hesitant to look at their child's social media accounts, especially when they turn teenagers, because God forbid you tell your 16-year-old, let me see your phone and give me your password, and that's not going to happen. But you need to make that effort. To the students, it's the same message. Be aware of what's going on in your surroundings. Be aware of the other students around there. Active shooter events happens everywhere. It doesn't happen just in the schools. It happens at churches, malls, supermarkets. It happens everywhere. So just be aware of your surroundings. And we all say it. You see something, say something. There's a lot of tools out there at your fingertips that you can report misconduct.
Yeah. And it sounds like there's a lot of effort, or a lot of emphasis, I should say, on transparency and communication within the district happening right now. So a lot of avenues to go about saying something if you see something.
Yes, sir.
Jeremy, your message to parents and students watching?
My message to parents and students is back to what I shared earlier. I think HISD is on the upswing. I think there's a lot of excitement about where we can go, and we're looking forward to doing it side by side.
Dr. Castillo?
I think for me, it's really encouraging our students and our families again to be engaged, to communicate, to reach out. If they are going, it doesn't matter what it is, to understand that they're not alone, that we are here to support them. We want to help them to be successful, not just while they are with us in HISD, but post HISD. So really reach out, be informed of all the great resources that are available. I think we are a very fortunate school district that have a lot of resources, a lot of services, a lot of free options for things like AP classes, wraparound services. If they need assistance with uniform, it's just them accepting that help and not hesitate to request it. So we look forward to seeing you on starting the 22nd, and we're here ready to support them.
Monday, I can feel the butterflies kicking in already for those students. Ms. Galloway.
I think that it's just we're ready for an exciting year. I think this is our first year, as we've said, that we're hoping that we won't have the same impact from COVID on our daily operations and the way our classrooms and our students interact with each other. And so I think it's an exciting year. I think we have a bunch of students who are they're ready to go back to what we think of as normal. But I also think that it's taking advantage, like Dr. Castillo said. We are a resource-rich school district. We have programs for just about everything. And so when you need help, please reach out to your campus. But I also want to provide parents with another phone number for student assistance that they can call if they have questions about certain resources that we have. That number is 713-556-7237. This department can help get you to the right location. They can work with homeless and foster care families, students who may have dropped out during the COVID pandemic. We want to get those students back in school. Please have them reach out to that number. I think it's going to be an amazing year.
Say that number one more time.
713-556-7237.
Okay, we of course will put that on our website too. Well, I want to thank you all for stopping by and having this conversation with us. It's great to have you here, and I'm sure our viewers appreciate it as well. Thank you for answering our questions. We've had a lot of questions not only from our newsroom but from our viewers. So again, thank you. ISD returns to class on Monday. We've been talking about it. Students are excited. Parents, I'm sure, are probably really excited too to get those students back in a classroom. Summer is over. We hope it's a great year for all students, teachers, and staff members. You can find more back-to-school resources on clicktohouston.com, including links to HISD's anti-bullying resources, the Say Something anonymous reporting system, and the student assistance portal. Our back-to-school coverage continues on air and online at clicktohouston.com. Again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have an awesome afternoon.